For more than 3,000 years, one great civilization rose and fell along the banks of a single river, the Nile. To understand ancient Egypt, you have to start with the Nile River. Egypt is mostly desert. Without the Nile, there would be almost no life there at all. Every year, the river flooded its banks and left behind rich, dark soil. That soil was perfect for growing crops like wheat and barley. The ancient Greek writer Herodotus once called Egypt the gift of the Nile. He was right. The river gave the Egyptians food, water, and an easy way to travel and trade. Along this river, small farming villages slowly became powerful kingdoms. Then, around 3100 BCE, a king from the south, often called Nama or Menes, united Upper and Lower Egypt into one country. From that point on, Egypt became one of the most important civilizations in the ancient world. The first major age of Egyptian history is usually called the Old Kingdom. It lasted roughly from 2700 to 2200 BCE. During this time, the rulers of Egypt were called pharaohs. The Egyptians saw the pharaoh as both a king and a kind of god on earth. His job was to keep order, protect his people, and honor the gods so that the Nile would flood on time and the land would stay safe. The Old Kingdom is famous for one thing above all others: the pyramids. The earliest large stone pyramid was built for a king named Djoser. His architect Imhotep designed a step pyramid made of stone. It was something the world had never seen before. Later, other pharaohs wanted even grander tombs. At Giza, 3 huge pyramids were built for Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. These pyramids were tombs for the pharaohs and were meant to help them reach the afterlife. Building them took tens of thousands of workers, careful planning, and strong leadership. For the Egyptians, these pyramids were not just graves. They were stairways to eternity. After the glory of the Old Kingdom, Egypt went through a period of trouble. Central power weakened. Local rulers, called nomarchs, gained more control. There were struggles over who should be pharaoh. Crops failed in some years, and the government could not always handle the crisis. Eventually, new leaders brought Egypt back together, and the Middle Kingdom began around 2050 BCE. The pharaohs of the Middle Kingdom focused more on helping ordinary people, not just building huge pyramids. They improved irrigation systems for farming and built forts in the south. Art and literature also grew during this time. Stories, poems, and instructions for how to live a good life were written on papyrus scrolls. But Egypt was not safe forever. New invaders arrived. Around 1550 BCE, Egypt entered what many historians call its Golden Age, the New Kingdom. Foreign rulers, known as the Hyksos, had taken over parts of Egypt using horse-drawn chariots and new weapons. Egyptian leaders fought back, drove them out, and then decided to build an empire so that no one could threaten them again. This was the time of Egypt's most famous pharaohs. One was Hatshepsut, a powerful female pharaoh who ruled successfully for many years. She built great temples and sent trading ships to faraway lands. Then there was Akhenaten, who tried to change Egypt's religion. He wanted the people to worship mainly one god, the sun disk Aten. This was very different from the traditional many gods, and when Akhenaten died, most of his changes were undone. The most famous pharaoh for many people today is Tutankhamun, often called King Tut. He became pharaoh when he was very young and died as a teenager. His tomb was discovered almost untouched in 1922, filled with gold, jewellery and everyday objects. This gave the modern world an incredible look into Egyptian burial customs. Another giant of this age was Ramesses II, sometimes called Ramesses the Great. He ruled for about 66 years. He built massive statues, huge temples, and fought in important battles such as the Battle of Kadesh. The New Kingdom was a time of power, wealth, and great building projects, but like all empires, it would not last forever. After the New Kingdom, Egypt entered a long period of change and decline. Different groups from outside Egypt took turns ruling the land. Libyans, Nubians, Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, and finally the Romans all controlled Egypt at different times. One of the most famous rulers from this later period was Cleopatra VII. She was part of the Greek-speaking Ptolemaic dynasty that ruled Egypt after Alexander the Great. Cleopatra tried to keep Egypt independent by forming alliances with powerful Roman leaders such as Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. But after a struggle with Rome's first emperor Augustus, Egypt finally became a Roman province in 30 BCE. From that point on, the old ways of the pharaohs slowly faded. Temples to the Egyptian gods were still used for a time, but over the centuries the ancient religion declined. New religions, such as Christianity, took root. The age of pharaohs was over. But the beliefs of the ancient Egyptians, especially about life after death, remain some of the most fascinating in history. So, what was it like to live in ancient Egypt? Most people were farmers who lived in small mud brick houses near the Nile. They grew crops, raised animals, and paid taxes to the government, often in the form of grain. There were also craftsmen who made pottery, jewellery, tools, and clothes. Scribes were trained to read and write hieroglyphs, the picture writing of Egypt. Being a scribe was a respected job because not many people could read. Society was shaped like a pyramid with the pharaoh at the top, then priests and nobles, then soldiers and scribes, then merchants and artisans, and finally farmers and servants at the bottom. Religion was everywhere. The Egyptians worshipped many gods, each with special powers. For example, Ra, the sun god, who travelled across the sky each day. Osiris, the god of the afterlife and judge of the dead. Isis, a goddess who protected families and helped with magic and healing. Horus, the falcon-headed god of the sky and kingship. Anubis, the jackal-headed god who watched over mummification and graves. The Egyptians believed the gods controlled nature, from the flooding of the Nile to the health of their crops. They built temples, offered food and drink to the gods, and held ceremonies to keep the gods happy. But their most detailed beliefs were about what happened after a person died. For the ancient Egyptians, death was not the end of the story. They believed that life continued in another world, often called the afterlife or the field of reeds. This world was like a perfect version of Egypt, with good food, pleasant weather, and no sickness or pain. To reach this place, a person had to pass several stages. First, the Egyptians believed that each person had different parts to their soul, not just one. Two important parts were the Ka, a kind of life force or spirit that needed food and drink, and the Ba, often shown as a bird with a human head, which could move between the world of the living and the dead. There was also the Akh, the transformed spirit that could live with the gods if everything went well. For the soul to live on, the body had to be protected. This is why the Egyptians developed mummification. Priests carefully removed the organs, dried the body with a type of salt called natron, and then wrapped it in linen bandages. The goal was to keep the body recognizable so that the Ka and Ba could find it. The mummy was then placed in a coffin, sometimes inside several coffins, and laid in a tomb filled with goods. These goods could include food and drink, clothing and jewelry, tools and furniture, and small statues called shabti, which could serve the dead person in the afterlife. To help the dead person on their journey, families placed scrolls in the tomb, which we now call the Book of the Dead. This was not a single book, but a collection of spells, prayers, and instructions. These texts told the dead person what to say and do as they faced dangers on the way to the afterlife. The journey was imagined as a kind of spiritual adventure. The dead person might meet strange creatures, pass through gates guarded by gods, and sail on boats through the night sky. One of the most important scenes in this journey was the weighing of the heart. The Egyptians believed that a person's heart recorded all their actions during life. In the Hall of Judgment, the dead person stood before Osiris, the god of the afterlife. The god Thoth, who was linked with writing and wisdom, recorded the results. The heart of the dead person was placed on a scale and weighed against the feather of Maat, the goddess of truth and justice. If the heart was as light as the feather, it meant the person had lived a good and honest life. They could enter the afterlife and enjoy eternal peace. But if the heart was heavy with lies and evil actions, the scale would tip. Waiting nearby was a frightening creature called Amit. She had the head of a crocodile, the front of a lion, and the back of a hippopotamus. Amit would eat the heavy heart. For the Egyptians, this was the worst fate of all. It meant the person's soul would be destroyed and would not live on. If the dead person passed the test, they entered the field of reeds. This heavenly place looked a lot like Egypt, but perfect. The Nile always flooded at the right time. The fields were always fertile. Friends and family could be reunited. The person could farm, feast, sail boats, and live in comfort forever. The Egyptians did not dream of becoming angels sitting on clouds. They wanted a better version of the life they already knew and loved. Everything they did in life, from obeying the laws to honoring the gods, was partly to make sure they would be judged worthy of this eternal world. Ancient Egypt rose on the banks of the Nile and lasted for thousands of years. Its pharaohs built monuments that still stand today. Its artists filled tombs and temples with colour and meaning. Its priests and scribes recorded stories of gods, kings, and journeys into the next world. At the heart of it all was a powerful idea. Life does not simply end at death. For the ancient Egyptians, every choice mattered. Tell the truth, respect the gods, care for your family, and you might earn a place in the field of reeds. Live selfishly and cruelly, and your heart would betray you on the scales of judgment. Their pyramids, mummies, and tombs may seem strange to us today, but their belief that actions in this life shape what comes next is an idea that still feels familiar even thousands of years later. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the world of ancient Egypt, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves history. Until next time, keep asking questions and keep exploring the past.